Hello, hello. I am Ben Pick, and thank you for joining me in another episode of Running to Write, where I give questionable writing advice through running metaphors. For episode number 10, I get to put on my big boy pants as I hit double digits and step through the 10 strategies I use when outlining. While there are countless methods out there to outline a story, today I'm going through what worked for me, generalized in a way to be helpful to you. In a previous episode, I used the term pantsing without defining it. Outlining and pantsing are two opposing mindsets when preparing to write a story. Outlining tends to be a more structured manner of developing a story, whereas pantsing comes from the expression flying by the seat of your pants. As the name implies, an outliner will develop a detailed outline prior to beginning to write their story, whereas a pantser will have a general concept of where to begin, maybe where to end, maybe a scene somewhere in the middle, and will evolve their story in real time as they write it. There are variations and debates about what constitutes either methodology, but as a comparison, outlining is having a strict running plan set up prior to leaving your home versus pantsing, where you put on your running shoes and just go out for an hour or so. With writing, years ago I started by developing vague plot points that then crystallized into specific scenes. I worked to make sense of those moments within the larger story, basically turning a series of one-off short stories into a novel without much planning or foresight. For those first few instances of my pantsed writing, it didn't end well. My writing process has evolved so that today I create granular paragraphs within the outlines that then get transplanted directly into the associated chapters, along with supplemental notes for characters, moods, and settings. While that may seem restricting and time-consuming, I do a lot of creative planning to reach that point. Here are my 10 strategies for outlining. These are in my step-by-step order, but as there is no single way to outline, adjust them as you see fit. Number 1, start with a major premise. This should be the reason why you're writing. Consider performing a what-if exercise where the entire story gets boiled down to a single sentence. Like, what if a moisture farmer obtained the secret schematics for a planet-destroying weapon? What if a hobbit journeyed to destroy a ring he inherited? What if a mother with the power to move the earth sought revenge against the one who murdered her child? Number 2, themes, the other starting point. Maybe you want to write about a specific theme, be it exploring the unknown in an interstellar epic, or the meaningless nature of war between robots and clones. Start with that high-level theme and work your way down to specifics. You may also want to apply a plot structure to help accentuate emotional moments. I'll be going through plot structures shortly, but the main idea is that stories follow a structure of rising and falling tension brought on by various internal or external conflicts. Your goal is to convey the theme in these rising and falling moments, thus reinforcing them. For example, the theme may be the power of friendship conquers all. In that case, set up a climactic moment where a group of people are forced to come together and rely on each other, with each person contributing something none of the others can, such that they all succeed. Number 3, find your characters. Who is the story about? What drives them to act? What are your characters' personalities? What is preventing them from getting what they want? How will they change across the story? Develop who we're taking this journey with so that you can understand why the reader will want to follow along. I mean, I am willing to overlook significant plot holes and contrived situations so long as the characters and their interactions are fun. Number 4, generate those ideas. What do you want to happen in your story? Figure it out. During this step, no idea should be discarded. This isn't about refining any ideas. You want to think of as many potential plot points as possible. How do you do that efficiently? The answer? Number 5. Note cards are your friend. Write simple phrases on each note card for plot points. Keep them brief. Examples for what to include on those note cards can be main character and best friend get in a verbal fight. Best friend betrays main character. Main character gets captured. Details are less important in this early phase, as those will skew or limit other ideas from being created. During my latest outline session, I took over my basement floor as I jot down all of the events I wanted to occur in my story. Note cards scattered about the floor or pinned to a board are an easy way to visualize the plot and threads, leaving me free to adjust and move them around as needed. If you have A, B, and C plots, use multicolored note cards to clearly see whether a part of the story is getting too much or too little attention. The best part about note cards is that they can be rearranged or tossed aside, but still don't throw any out yet. There are no bad ideas at this point. Number 6, use a guide. Map those note cards to a plot model, such as the 3x structure or Freytag's pyramid. These two models work together nicely, which I'll briefly highlight here. Act 1 begins with the exposition, where everything is normal relative to the narrating point of view, establishing the initial characters and setting. Then the inciting incident happens early, which changes everything by sending the character or characters on the path leading them to the main conflict. I want to reiterate that the inciting event should happen early in the story. If it doesn't, then consider adjusting where you start the novel or spending less time establishing the characters. With the inciting incident out of the way, the plot moves to the rising action and the first turning point. This is the end of the first act, wherein there is no returning to home or the status quo. The second act continues to rise in tension, leading to the midpoint. Though climactic moment, we have not yet reached the climax of the story. This midpoint should be a reversal, wherein everything changes. This can be due to a sudden reveal, a death, a betrayal, a major setback, whatever you want. The midpoint also adds to the stakes, making every subsequent action and decision more consequential, culminating in the second turning point. This is the all hope is lost moment and is the end of the second act. Act 3 shows the characters rising to the challenges of the story's climax. The climax is the pivotal moment in the story wherein the conflicts raised within the plot clash to drastic results. This is often the showdown between good and evil. After this pivotal moment, the falling action includes the immediate fallout. Maybe the falling action entails the protagonist escaping the collapsing fortress, having defeated their rival. Maybe you skip the escape scene altogether and have the protagonist being debriefed during the falling action scenes to give additional context for the previous climactic fight. Lastly, we end with the resolution. The protagonist has been changed by their journey. They may return home as a mirror to the exposition, knowing nothing will be the same, or they may look ahead to their next adventure. When I outline, I set up the Freytag pyramid on my floor and align my note cards to it, giving me a physical diagram for my story. This works incredibly well to set my story's pace and make sure that one part is not too encompassing. Number 7, pause. Look over your note card events and plan for downtime within your story. You can't have non-stop action, car chases, murders, and sex scenes without desensitizing your readers. This means between those high emotional moments, take a step back. Maybe have your characters reflect on how often someone has tried to kill them. Use these pauses to work back up to those emotional highs, as the characters plan to stop the numerous threats on their lives. Number 8, resolve plot holes. With the story mapped out, fix issues which feel inconsistent. Change events such that a character doesn't need to instantly travel across the world to be present at 2 different moments. Also, check whether a character is working against their built-up developments. Now, characters can backslide, but make sure that the reason they're regressing isn't solely so the plot works. Number 9, breathe in life to your story. Visualize the moments you've defined. This is where you start adding note cards to your note cards. I fill these supplemental note cards out with the 5 senses until I get a stack for each scene. I'll also include notes on character emotions and fallout actions, which can help me naturally flow into the next series of events. These all get placed behind their summary note cards that were made in step 5. These giant stacks give context to those summary note cards. When you have a general line that says X and Y characters fight, these additional note cards expand on that idea by answering where do they fight, why do they fight, what happens after they fight. Draw out that moment, then move on to the next and the next until you have a fully realized story. And lastly, number 10, write. With the skeletal outline done by step 6, you can keep adding and improving to it all the way through step 9. Or you can start writing your story. I tend to keep outlining, but by the way I am outlining, I essentially am creating a very, very pared down version of a first draft. My method takes more preparation, but streamlines the effort when I am writing the manuscript. Those are my 10 strategies and steps for outlining. For those of you who outline, follow as many or as few of those strategies as you want. Also, for those of you who write by pantsing, follow as many or as few of those strategies as you want. Let me know in the comments below what method of outlining you use, or the longest you spent outlining a novel. Are there any pantsers out there who want to say that everything I've said is wrong and restricting? Let me know in those comments. If you're having as much fun with this content as I am, then give it a like. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell to be informed of the latest videos I post. Don't be afraid to share your thoughts in the Running to Write community on Facebook and Twitter. I am Ben Pick, and thank you for joining me in another episode of Running to Write. See you next time. Until then, keep writing and customize the outlining process that works best for you.